All right. Again, welcome everyone. My name is Jessica Testardin. I am a program coordinator in the Office of Community Engagement. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for being here. We are glad to have you join us. And if you've been here before, thank you for continuing to support our work and our partners. Please note this session is being recorded, and please be sure you are muted throughout the presentation. We encourage everyone to use the chat bar to share comments or post questions for our guests at any time. This monthly series features community partners and the important work they are doing. We highlight their goals, motivations, and accomplishments, and the ways they have partnered with people and programs at MCW. Today, I have the honor to introduce Carlos Rodriguez as our featured guest. Mr. Rodriguez is an educator and leader in physical and health education at Milwaukee Public Schools. As a project lead for the System of Wellness Instruction for Teachers and Teens, known as SWIFTT, Carlos offers strategies for teachers to thrive in a post-pandemic education landscape. Carlos is dedicated to enhancing student wellness, supporting educators, and expanding access to high-quality physical education. Thank you, Carlos, for being our featured guest today. I would also like to welcome today's facilitator, Dr. Christopher Simmons. Dr. Simmons is an associate professor and associate director for the MPH and Dr. PH programs in the Institute for Health and Equity at MCW. In collaboration with colleagues, he has implemented numerous policy and system changes aimed at equitable health improvements. Dr. Simmons' work is driven by a deep commitment to advancing health equity across all settings. Thank you, Dr. Simmons, for serving as our spotlight facilitator today. I now turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Thank you, Jai, and thank you, team, for putting on such a great show here. So excited to see so many people in the audience today, a lot of familiar faces, and really excited to be able to introduce you to and facilitate for my friend and colleague, Carlos Rodriguez. Carlos came into MPS leadership in his role as curriculum specialist for health and physical education, MPS, in a time that would have been challenging for anyone. He stepped in and immediately dealt with issues related to COVID, issues related to shutdown, issues related to the real struggles that a large institution like MPS was facing. And not only did so admirably and effectively, but did so with passion that was really unrivaled. And I've been able to watch his development and his growth in that space as a partner on a grant funded project and beyond, not only at the local level, but all the way to the national level as he's represented MPS and represented our projects at SHAPE national conferences and others. So just incredibly impressed by Carlos, and I think you all will be too. So Carlos, I'm going to turn this over to you quickly because people want to hear you talk, not me talk. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Thank Chris, and thank you, Jessica, for the amazing introduction, and thanks everyone for taking the time to join us today. Carlos Rodriguez, Curriculum Specialist for Health and Physical Education for Milwaukee Public Schools. Midway through my 18th year, I was a physical education teacher for 15 years at two schools, Ryder Street Academy and Escuela View, before stepping into this curriculum specialist role in the fall of 2022. Involved in a lot of coaching, especially excited with this new role in developing systems of support for our teachers.
Thank you, Carlos. And when you got involved in this process, you got involved in curriculum specialist, there were some significant changes, but could you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the work that you do all the way through physical education to now?
So when I came in, stepped into a challenging role, I know a lot of great policies and curriculum alignments were in place, but we were struggling with, I call them openings. MPS was fortunate enough with the referendum in 2017. Many of our schools couldn't reach the student population numbers to be able to hold an art, music, and PE teacher full-time. With the referendum, we were able to expand that. So stepping into the role, we began with 37.4 openings. And in the last 2.5 years with our mentorship program and the resources and tools that we learned through this great collaboration in SWIFTT, we've developed a website and we're able to retain many of those teachers. And from 37.4 in 2022, at one point we were down to 1 this year, but life happens, or a couple of retirements. So now we're back up to 5 openings, but again, I call them openings, not vacancies, because those schools didn't have teachers leave the school building. It's just now those school principals are fortunate enough through the referendum to offer those openings at those schools.
That's outstanding. And that kind of growth, specifically in an environment where public education has come under fire and been challenged, is really, really outstanding. We appreciate that and appreciate those efforts. Can you tell us a little bit, Carlos, about what it's been like for you to partner with MCW on this grant and in other projects, and what that's meant to both to you and NPS?
The collaboration is very, very impactful. Through the first year and a half, it was a big growing moment for me. The collaboration with MCW allowed me to gain some background knowledge on self-care strategies and mindfulness strategies and enhance on those, and then connect them to what I feel is my strength, is taking those strategies and tools and showing the teachers how they can be applied in their personal lives. So it's been a real blessing, Chris and MCW, for that collaboration again, because what you guys show us through those meetings and the growth, it has direct impact and engagement right away with the teachers on every time, the very next day.
I love to hear that. And one of the examples that I think of when I think about this, Carlos, is your work with international teachers that have come from abroad and come to seek opportunities at MPS. Can you just speak for a few moments about some of the things that you've employed, whether it be mentorship or it be training for our international teachers, based on what we've done in our grant-funded work?
Yes, we've been very blessed for the districts to be allowed work permit visas to allow these international teachers to come into the school district. The great thing about them is they come in as licensed teachers, many of them with over 5 years of teaching experiences. The challenging thing for them is adapting to the school climate and culture. For example, a big change, not so much of student behavior, but the technology. Some of our international teachers, their students didn't have any technology, and some of our students not only have a cell phone, have tablets, may have a Chromebook. So it's a challenge for them acclimating to that. But they've been a blessing, the international teachers, in supporting filling our openings in Milwaukee Public Schools.
Outstanding. And I love this notion of multi-sector partnership around education, around employment, and in our case, around academic and grant-funded partnership. Can you tell me a little bit from your perspective about what have you learned during this process, during the last few years, about what it takes to be an effective partner, a community partner, an academic partner, and a grant partner?
Great question. You have to have a lot of patience. Society can tend to look at the negative of things. So really changing the focus in our teachers to find something good. I know education might be the only profession I feel that even on your worst day, you can be impactful. You know, doctors have a bad day, someone can get sick, or even worse, lose their life. A lawyer has a bad day. It might be someone being freed who was a criminal, or someone who wasn't, was innocent, gets placed in jail. But with teaching, we can have challenging classes all day long, but our involvement, the relationships we build with the students, that smile, that fist pump, that little 5-minute conversation after class with that student, we're impactful every day. We're noticing with the teachers, we have to be willing to really be supportive. The support sometimes is around wellness, sometimes it's around academic planning and preparation. You know, I shared at the start that we hired a lot of teachers and were able to retain them. It was a combination of not just international teachers, licensed teachers, and permit teachers. Permit teachers are college graduates, but don't have or have obtained a teaching license. So they receive an emergency license from DPI to obtain that license and then do on-the-job training while they move forward to attain that license. So with them, their support is more around academics, where sometimes with the licensed teachers and our international teachers is more around acclimating to the student population and then wellness resources for them.
Thank you. That was a great answer. I love the reflexivity there to be thoughtful about the needs of your teachers and the different needs of your teachers. Nice quote already up in the chat from Dr. David Nelson. Even on your bad days, you can be impactful. And this is a chance for me to give you a little bit of respect. One of the things I respect about you most, Carlos, as a leader is that regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the uncertainty that we're facing currently, you come with positivity and passion every day. And this is a chance for you to go off script a little bit. I haven't asked you this question previously, but what do you bring personally? How do you bring that passion every day when it's really easy in this space to get drawn into the negative?
Great question. Kind of like a two-part, maybe three-part response. One, I was fortunate enough my mother was a teacher for over 31 years, combination of educator in Puerto Rico and from Milwaukee Public Schools. So she did teaching at South Division, and throughout my entire early elementary through middle school, she was involved with student council, National Honor Society, different sports, department chair for many extracurricular activities at the school. So she would take me to those school events and fell in love with the interactions and the relationships she was able to build with those students. I found them very beautiful. Then the second reason is for my family. You know, I love that. What I do for them, not just for them, but primarily for them, so that I can be a positive role model for my children, and they can look up to me and be proud of their father. And the last reason, it really fills my bucket when I can support the teachers. Main stress for them right now is their working conditions. So me and my team in collaboration with MCW work really hard to go the extra step to try to make those working conditions as positive and effective as possible.
Thanks. You know, number one, speaking to your mother and the role that she played, you got to watch an educator and you're following in those footsteps. It's really outstanding. It leads us right to the next question, which is you're on the ground every day across a massive school district, hundreds of spaces. How can you effectively and how can we effectively engage with community? How do you build those relationships?
It takes great collaboration, shared visions and goals, patience, and a little resilience, because sometimes there's barriers in place. You have to collaborate together to try to overcome those. The need is too great for one person, one department, one agency to tackle it on its own. It really is a whole school, whole community, whole child model where it takes everyone to build the wellness of our students.
And I would assume across such a vast space and so many schools that there's a lot of difference. There are a lot of contextual needs that you have to realize. What's the role of you going out there and just listening in understanding that process?
But very important, because something we found with the interviews and meetings and presentations at the conference, the participants that get shared with us that sometimes just lending a listening ear supports with their stress and burnout. So lending that listening ear to them can not only improve their wellness, but then get you to connect it to what the need is. And then connecting that need and highlighting it on the tools and resources we're providing on our website.
That's great. Thank you, Carlos. So how can we support you? There are so many people on this call today. You've got a massive number of people interested in listening to what you're doing, what MPS is doing. How can people support you, the work you're doing, and your community?
A great question, Chris. First, to start, a good way to support us is providing feedback on our website and throughout the presentation and after. The representatives from MCW will be sharing a QR code. We would love for you guys to visit that site, please explore it a little bit, and then share some feedback, because it really goes a long way in addressing something we're missing or a need for our educators. Two is connecting with school leaders and school districts. I know school districts love to work with partners. They work hand in hand. Our teachers need the support. The partners have the energy and the passion and the resources for our teachers. So it just works perfectly hand in hand with our capacity needs at the schools and the great partnership and resources offered by the different community partners.
Thanks, Carlos. And we have a question that came up in the chat. Can you tell us more about what stress and burnout look like to teachers in your profession? So this is bringing us a little bit into our work with SWIFTT. If you want to introduce SWIFTT briefly and then talk a little bit about that, that'd be great.
So SWIFTT is short for System of Wellness Instruction for Teachers and Teens. We look to gather data and evidence on what is stressing and burning out our teachers. So stress could mean lack of preparation, no time for preparation. Stress can mean their workload, right? Whether it's high class sizes or a high course workload for their schedule, back-to-back classes. It could be challenges also with classroom management, because our students, the SEL need is at the highest. We're a low socioeconomic school district, which means our students are coming in with a lot of trauma. So not only do we have to tackle the academics, but we also have to do our best to support and improve those SEL needs of our students.
That's great. As an example, can you tell us, Carlos, a little bit about like the mentorship program that you've begun to put into place to help support teachers feeling stress for various reasons, employees in your space feeling stress?
So the mentorship, I think it's the #1 resource tool we have with this collaboration website. Teaching is an unstaged career. You know, doctors do the residency for 3 years, lawyers go to law school, and residency as well for several years. Teaching, you go maybe 9 weeks of student teaching, and then you're thrown right into the lion's den. So it's an unstaged career. The mentorship, that first year is very, very crucial. It can really break or make a teacher. So the mentorship providing, we do weekly meetings and what's called cycles. The instructional practice that the teacher chooses, it's based on their need, what they want to see grow with the practices. And then our coaches are not there to just say, I got you, or you're in trouble. They're there to build on the strengths from the teachers to then grow those practices. We were fortunate to receive good training with our mentorship program. One of the first ones was through, I'm sorry if I'm referencing this wrong, but from CISA, Elena Aguilar, The Art of Coaching, that focuses on 3 main components. The first one is minding the gap. So as our coaches are mentoring their teachers, they need to analyze and question themselves, is this a skill that the teacher is missing? So if you're asking them for a lesson plan or a rubric or a formative assessment and they're not providing it for you for review for your one-on-one meetings, it might be because they don't have that skill. Again, we have been hiring permit teachers. So that's been a challenge with the planning and preparation because they're coming in with no background knowledge in physical education. The second component is fears of control. So as the teacher's listening to the concern and the need of the mentee, they're questioning and asking, is this something that they can influence? Is this something that's in their control? If not, there's no need to stress about that concern or barrier. And the third thing is strength-based coaching. So tapping into the strength of that mentee to improve those practices. So an example of that, I had a mentee, we'll keep his name anonymous, but he's at Obama, who was a permit teacher, but his undergrad degree was in exercise science. So he was very versed in different skills-based exercises to improve, sports exercises to improve those skills. So that's how we improve these practices, teaching those specific exercises connected to those sports skills to gain, so that he can gain confidence.
That's great. I love the notion of connections. And along those lines, I know we've talked about connections within the classroom, connections to teachers and mentors. What about connections to partners, either in community or in different areas, such as Dane County or other parts of Wisconsin? How do you connect with others, and what are the ways you see connection as useful in this process?
Best way is outreach, present at the different state and national conventions, reach out to those. Our site is public. We wanted to benefit not just health and PE teachers and MPS and the rest of the teachers in MPS, but it's a public site. You know, I've shared it with other school district curriculum specialists because the resources are great and could benefit the entire state, the entire nation. Just communication, exposure, getting out there and presenting, sharing links and QR codes with your partners, again, to just spread the word to the community.
That's great. And if I can ask you a specific there, because we've had the good fortune of working with partners Shape America and Stephanie Morris, who is an executive for Shape America. We've got a national reach in this space. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the work that you've done at and with Shape and how that allows this to reach a much broader audience than it might just in Milwaukee?
Yeah, because we were able to collect research and data around what the needs are, not just in Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin, but nationally, all the physical education teachers, again, in the US. We're very fortunate to have Stephanie Morris as a collaborator in our team, not only to share the resources and exposure to our site, but to also connect us, you know, as guest presenters and facilitators during her coffee talk sessions and breakout sessions where we can highlight some of the tools and resources for the educators, but then also collect feedback from them to see what we're missing.
Thanks, Carlos. So you do so many things across so many spaces in MPS. What's your favorite part of what you do in this organization?
The tough one. Just again, to fill my bucket, it's seeing the excitement and the buzz around the health and PE department doing great things. Just submitted this morning a list of HPE impact statements, and I kind of had to stop for a second and share that with the team and say, oh man, we've really come a long way. We tend to sometimes focus on what hasn't been accomplished. Sometimes we have to slow down and think of what we have accomplished. It's one of our tools, right? Embodying resilience in our resilience strategy to keep us motivated and eager. So it's excited to see the smiles and when there's growth with our mentor and our mentee, it's what's really gets me excited.
So you see that excitement, you see mentees growing. How do you recruit mentees? How do you get people interested in either using the SWIFTT platform or engaging in the mentorship process? What do you do?
Tough question. Well, for the mentorship, it's based on district funds. So, I mean, there is a mentorship need. I have 3 right now, but I know all departments, all school districts, they could easily benefit from from 10 or more mentors with each content area, because the teacher need is so great. With many school districts having to hire permit teachers, there is a lot of need to support them with their planning and preparation, the academic aspect of the mentorship.
That's great. Speaking of that, it speaks of need, right? Are you looking for organizational partners right now, or are there opportunities to work with MPS and partner on some of the work that you're doing?
Always looking for partners and support. Again, the schools, they're at their capacities. They're more than willing to collaborate and connect with partners, not just to share your resources with the school, the classroom, the students, but also share those resources on our SWIFTT website. We have additional community partners that share tools and strategies, and we get them posted on our site. The more places, many times the families, the students, there's supports out there for them, but they're not aware of it or they don't know where to find it. So the more places that it's exposed, the better for our families.
That's great. I love the notion of connection and connection to resources. Are you noticing in the work that you do some recurrent themes that the community is looking for in terms of support, whether it be teachers, whether it be families or other? And if so, what are those themes?
Well, the biggest theme right now is it's around mental wellness, SEL needs. So the district is working really hard, not just our department, but many other departments in the district to establish websites, get to schools, collaborate with partners to present those resources and expose our families to them. Because academics, student achievement, it starts with the well-being of the students. If they're feeling safe, if they're feeling a part of the school, if they feel well, then now they can focus on the academics. If students are stressed about their home life, they're stressed about being bullied, they're stressed about, this teacher doesn't like me, they're not going to focus on academics. That'll take presidency in their eyes. They'll be stressed and won't be able to focus. So SEL and mental wellness for the students. And
So we
I
may not
think
have
that's,
all. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cummings.
and I think that's the secret of life, right? Even adults, one of our challenge is managing our emotions. So even as adults, it's a challenge for us. So I can only imagine how challenging it is for the students. I think that's the secret of life, managing our emotions.
I appreciate that. So we probably don't have all educators on here. Can you just give us 30 seconds on social emotional learning and just talk a little bit about how that underpins what you do? What does SEL mean to you when you're thinking about programming for children at MPS?
So SEL is teaching the students how to regulate their moods, but then also give them mood regulator tools. So for example, in health, we're teaching them how to make effective choices and analyzing influences, but that's not enough. That'll help them avoid, again, negative influences and concerns. But in physical education, we're connecting them to what's called the wellness zones, where red is sad, angry, blue is depressed, green is happy, calm, yellow is eager, excited. So students need to know our biggest vision right now in PE is for the students to understand that physical activity can be a great resource tool to combat your emotions. So our teachers are teaching them 5 to 6 mood regulators within each zone, so that not just they can do a check-in at the start of every class. Okay, based on your emotions, how you're feeling, let's do a short 3-minute warm-up to improve that mood. But in hopes that they can also take that outside of the PE class, almost like a skills-based approach. The students nowadays need to know and appreciate knowing how that content, what they're learning, applies in their personal life. So if we can give them 5 to 6 mood regulators on each one, in combination with our skills-based health education, I think we can be impactful with our students in the district.
That's crucial. And when addressing children and adolescents in that space, I would assume that there are a lot of barriers to trust based on systems, based on structures, and based on history. How do you break those barriers? And how do you build trust within, again, a really broad set of communities and a large number of students across Milwaukee?
You know, with great communication, transparency, you know, given the reason of why this initiative is in place, not keeping anything from the families, partners, and the district. So transparency and great communication. Did want to add also around the wellness zones. Physical activity is a great resource for our students because, as I mentioned, it's low socioeconomic status school district. So that means they don't have funding to get counseling, extra tutoring, extra health supports after school, before school, with their families. But physical activity is free. So it's a great message for our students. You know, my vision is they come into class, and as they're doing a wellness check, you know, 60–70% of the students are in the red zone. And then the teacher does a wellness check at the end of PE class, and now those 60–70% are now in the green and yellow. And what a great teachable moment for those students to highlight. Hey, what happened? You guys started in red, you started in blue, and now you're feeling better. Oh, we played this fun basketball lead-up game. But tell me more. Oh, we were learning the bounce pass, chest pass, but you guys were physically active. Yes, Mr. Eagle, we're physically active. So physical activity can improve your moods. Oh, what a great connection to make with our students.
Absolutely. And across an incredibly diverse set of students. So different ideas, different likes, different contexts. Can you talk a little bit about representation amongst health and physical education in your educators? And a little bit about cultural humility, kind of what those things play and how they impact the ability of teachers to be successful in reaching students?
Yeah, very important. We're a very diverse school district. And many times our students, our diverse students, don't know a lot of background information about their own personal culture. So they appreciate when we bring in their culture into our lesson plans. We updated our curriculum to be as inclusive as possible so that everyone feels represented and wanted and a part of the school district and curriculum. No, it's a challenge.
That's great. And I think it's an ongoing challenge, but part of this platform and part of what you're doing really works to address that. Are there specific spaces, around mental health or around community partners or around community resources that you're looking to engage with? Are you looking to get into certain spaces in Milwaukee and in the community?
Not sure of spaces, but always willing to have partners come in and provide guidance and support around any self-care. For example, we collaborated with a great partner to provide staff wellness PDs. What we like to do is give them a little taste, kind of like the Cliff Notes, and then if they want to expand on that tool and that strategy, we allow them to do that. So for our WHP, our state presentations, our national conventions, and with our staff wellness PDs, we actually take the teachers through 5 rotations of our 5 essential strategies: meaningful teaching, resiliency, trauma-informed practice, self-care, and mindfulness. We take them through a tool in each because we feel, just like with the students, we have to capture them first. So if we take the teachers through those 5 different tools, we're hoping that maybe they find a connection with one or several. Say, hey, that worked for me. Maybe I can adapt that to my practices, personal wellness practices. Where can I find more information? So our kind of trick is exposing them to the tool first, to then highlight how they can elaborate the tool in their personal lives.
Thanks, Carlos. You brought up the notion of connections and connections from teachers to students. One of the things I'm interested in is, given many of our teachers that come into Milwaukee Public Schools are educated outside the city, probably grew up outside the city and maybe grew up in areas that are significantly less diverse, significantly less significantly unlike the spaces that they grew up. What does bidirectional communication and bidirectional connection with community look like for teachers coming in from other spaces? Maybe they got a degree in Oshkosh or a degree in La Crosse or a degree in Eau Claire and come into a school in Milwaukee. What does that bidirectional relationship look like?
That's challenging, Chris. Because with those teachers coming in, not how you stated, not so much being exposed to the urban city kind of climate, kind of come in with their own stereotypes and implications. We try to eliminate some of those by connecting with some of the program directors from the colleges and having those teachers come in and visit the schools. I know our students can be challenging, but once you develop those relationships with them, they have the beautifulest smiles. So it's just getting them into school buildings. We try to be proactive with that, Chris, and having them come visit, again, collaborating with the directors from their colleges and getting them at schools to visit to kind of see our urban school district student population.
That's great. And to bring it back to the SWIFTT grant for a moment, Carlos, we do a lot of work around diversity, equity, inclusion. Can you talk about how some of the things that we're doing there and putting onto the platform to support existing teachers might help as well?
Yes, Chris. We have Brian Kopp from Kennesaw State, our EDI consultant specialist. That's how I was able to grow some of my knowledge, background knowledge with those SWIFTT meetings around EDI. And that ties into your previous question, Chris, because that knowledge, those modules help those teachers that are coming in with those stereotypes and implications to really get the real picture of our students. They can sometimes have biases that they may not be aware. So that knowledge, those resources shared by Brian Kopp on our website helps get that exposure to all the teachers in the district.
Outstanding. Now I'm going to give you a chance to think about this for a minute, Carlos. You can take a break, stretch out. What do you want the audience to ask you? What do you wish people would ask you when they meet you at MPS?
It's a tough question. There's so many things. Something that I would want them to know. There's great things happening in MPS. The media doesn't always highlight the positive things. But once you get involved with our district, there's amazing teachers, amazing administrators, and amazing students and families. It really is fulfilling to do this work. I want them to know that I'm willing to go the extra mile for our teachers and my coaches, my mentors. They're priority in our department, and want them to know and ask how they can be involved. And I love connecting them with our educators, again, to support with their capacities. Because many times the partners, Chris, they're able to come and present the resources, which is great because not only do the students get exposure to that, our teachers, maybe first-year teacher, second-year teacher, permit teacher, may not be confident in administering that lesson, but then also grows their confidence in practice by also receiving that presentation, collaboration presentation from the community partner.
That's great. I want to touch on something that you said right there, because you talk about always going the extra mile to support your educators. And some of the things that we've learned in SWIFTT, talk a little bit about the challenges that educators face when they're trying to work on improving health for students. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that health and physical educators face that people don't know about, right? We see the results and we see physical education results for kids, or we see physical education test results for kids. What do we need to know about health and physical educators and the challenges they face in schools?
The challenges can vary based on the type of teacher, if they're a permit, international or certified teacher, but they all face, again, capacity issues. It's unfortunate that school districts, they're still run like a business. They have to increase student school number so that they can keep their specialists, keep the school psychologist, the social worker. So that's a major challenge with the business approach.
Thank you, Carlos. Can you tell us a little bit, now that you've been here a couple of years, you're situated, you're growing in your role, how's your work changed over time? And if you want to start speaking as a physical educator when you're in classroom teaching to what you're doing now, please feel free to start there.
It's kind of funny you asked that, because I kind of treat and not to say it disrespectfully, but because the way I differentiate the resources and things, the way I instructed my students is the way I feel I lead my teachers, where some can understand it in the whole group instruction, right? Others, I might have to do a smaller presentation, a smaller gathering, and there's others where it might have to be a one-on-one meeting of support with those educators. So being adaptable, flexible, patience goes a long way. And then again, just taking the training we've received and applying it.
So to that end, Carlos, what do you know now that you wish you'd known when you started, either as a physical educator or when you started in your role as curriculum specialist?
That you're not alone. Teachers sometimes feel like they're in a silo, that they're the only ones going through this. So that's why sometimes lending a listening ear. Oh, you went through this experience, you went through that. They know they're not alone. Just be patient with yourself. Keep I don't think I started with a growth mindset, Chris, but through my experiences in education, teachers were always a continuous growing cycle. Our student population changes sometimes within the year, and we have to be adaptable and flexible to be able to differentiate our instructions to meet the needs of the students.
That's great, Carlos. Appreciate that comment. So isolation is a theme that we've seen again and again during our work on SWIFTT and our work with teachers. How can this platform and how can the connections that have been created through this platform help teachers that are feeling isolated or that are maybe not seeing it the way you didn't see it when you started?
The platform, we're working extremely hard to finalize and create what's called our learning communities. In 2 conventions, teachers expressed that recharge sessions were very, very important, getting together. So in our platform, what we're offering that currently it's virtual. As we continue to grow the platform, we'll continue to expand on that learning community in hopes of having some in-person gatherings. But again, from our site, just some opportunity to gather in the learning community once a month to recharge and connect.
That's great. Are there key themes when it comes to mental health supports? You're seeing this from community. Are there key themes that teachers are asking for when it comes to supports for their process right now?
A big one right now is conflict resolution. Our students are very reactive instead of responsive. That's why in our district, there's a big push for mindfulness. The students, one of the teachable moments in my class, how I incorporate mindfulness, your heart's supposed to be pumping fast when you're using your body, using your muscles. But when you're sitting down in class, listening to the instruction of the teacher and your heart's beating fast, that means you're stressed, whether you're angry of someone making fun of you, whether you're upset because of what happened in recess, whether you're upset and maybe you're not understanding the content, or unfortunately, boyfriend and girlfriend issues nowadays. But if they're sitting down, not moving their bodies, and their heart's beating fast, that's where the importance of mindfulness, control their breathing, use self-care tools, mindfulness tools to get that heart rate back down so that they can now respond to situations instead of react. I mean, even adults, we struggle with that many times on a daily basis.
I think that's great advice. I appreciate that. So as we start to move towards wrap up, do you have one takeaway if this large group of people is leaving the talk today, leaving the discussion? What do you want people to take away from this, whether it be to put into place, to enact, or to know about what you do and about the work that we've done as partners?
I want them to know you're impactful. The work you're doing is very, very important. You are not alone. Don't be hesitant to reach out to community partners for support, because it needs to be a group effort. The need is too great for just one person, again, one agency. No hesitation in reaching out, and be willing to ask for support.
That's terrific, Carlos, and appreciate that for both students and employees. So I think yes, I put in the chat, we're going to allow for some questions. So Carlos, if you don't mind,
Sure.
we're going to bring some questions up and I will read them to you and we'll see if we can get a few questions answered.
Yeah.
Here they come. All right, let's start first. This question is from Jennifer Cush. Thank you, Jennifer. What role does AI play in promoting wellness amongst teachers and students in MPS? Ooh, this is an interesting one.
Well, some teachers, AI can play a big role because they can simply ask AI, they can share their weekly routines and practices. They can share with AI what specific, whether they want to improve cardiovascular strength, muscular endurance. AI can create a nice workout plan, fitness plan for not just staff, the students. It's a great tool for students to organize and come up with topics, right? Unfortunately, some, not just MPS, but even colleges are combating with plagiarism and maybe some cheating issues. But technology can be a great use if used effectively. I like to share this example. I did a talent show at Escuela View my last year there, and there was a 7th grade young lady who used technology effectively and found an app, a free app, where she taught herself how to play the piano. So I like highlighting that to the students because where some, are on there for whatever apps, just a distraction, not really educational. This young lady took advantage of that tool. Technology can be a great tool, again, when used productively, to learn a new skill. I mean, she even received scholarship to go to college for music.
Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. Next question from David Nelson, who I think he's on the SWIFTT team, right? David, can you tell us how technology has changed education for better and worse? This is a little broader, right? And we could be talking about technology like the SWIFTT platform. We could be talking about technology like wearables in the classroom or other. What do you think about technology's role? And has it changed it for better or worse?
Some may say for worse because they feel it might make some of the teachers and students a little bit lazy. Sorry, I don't have another term. but I think technology can change education for good. It allows the teachers to differentiate their instruction, not only speak the instructions. If there's language barriers, we're fortunate in PE that we can say basketball, we can actually show the basketball, and then we can show a video of the skill that we're looking to develop for that lesson, that class. So I think it's a great tool to differentiate instructions. Another great way is some of our high schools, the attendance can be challenging for the students. Our PE teachers offer lessons, so if the student is absent, they can still go on to Google Classroom and receive credit for that lesson. They can still, it's an at-home activity for them to still get education, even if they're absent.
That's great. Those are a couple of additional terrific examples. I appreciate that. Our next question comes from Sarah O'Connor in the Office of Community Engagement. Sarah says, are there needs for further opportunities at MPS schools for recreational and varsity sports? And if yes, how can community support help with this?
We do have in our classic sports and participate in the WIAA conferences. Our MPS Recreation also does a great job offering different activities for our students and families in the recreational activity guide. But to answer that question, something unique, our students for the most part are exposed to kind of team sports, right? But as you grow up as an adult, you're rarely going to play a 5-on-5 or playing a 7-on-7 football game. Maybe a lot of the family picnics has transitioned to a lot of volleyball and badminton. But any exposure to like outdoor activities, individual sports activities for our students would be great, Sarah.
That's great. Another great question.
Because I like those, Chris, because our students need to know that they also have their strengths and weaknesses, where if Carlos likes soccer, maybe he doesn't like an individual sport or activity, where that student or Chris may like that individual and not the team. The goal is just to stay active in whatever it is you enjoy. So that way it's not like detrimental. You're not, I don't want to go do this. You're actually excited to perform that physical activity.
So to that end, does that mean, has MPS begun converting all tennis courts to pickleball courts, Carlos? Is that how it's working?
Hey, some of our schools with their ESSER funding were able to add the pickleball lines onto their tennis courts. Yes.
That's great. Love capturing
becoming popular again. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like that is all the questions we have. So I am going to say thank you on behalf of the Medical College of Wisconsin and the Office of Community Engagement. We truly appreciate your sharing your time with us and sharing your expertise with us. And we value you as a community partner, Carlos. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks everyone for your time and for your questions. Thank you, Carissa. Thanks, David.